Hi everybody, I'm Mickey Gousset, and I want to thank you for taking the time to go on this journey into GitHub Project Boards. GitHub Project Boards are a great way to organize and prioritize the work you need to do on your project. In the previous video of this series, we learned how to add pull requests to our project boards. Now, let's see how we can work with those pull requests and what the automation can do to help us. Let's get started. This video is about working with pull requests on GitHub Project Boards. I've already shown you how to add pull requests to a project board, either through the pull request page or from the board itself. Once you have the pull request on the board, you can move the pull request through your process that you have defined on your boards. And if you have defined automation on your project board, the pull request will move automatically to certain columns based off of events. Let's look at two different demos. In the first demo, I'm going to use the user project board and repository I created in earlier videos of this series. I've already added a pull request to this project board. Now I'm going to move this pull request through the board process and see how that works. I'm also going to see what information on the pull request I can modify, as well as see how changing the state on a pull request impacts the board. In the second demo, I'm going to do something similar to the first demo, but I'm going to use the automated Kanban with reviews repository project board instead, which has some extra automation on it, and we'll see how that affects the pull requests. Here we are at my profile page at github.com. So if I come up and I select your projects, we can see the user-owned board that I created in previous videos. And here are the two issues and the pull request that I added onto this board previously. Now, I can select this pull request and click it, and just as it did with issues on the right-hand side, it opens up information for me about the pull request. So I can see things such as the initial comment. I can see any reviewers, who it's assigned to, any labels, any boards that it's a member of. And then I actually have a link here that I can click that will take me to the actual full details of the pull request, just like we could with the issue. Now right now this pull request is in an open state, and you can see in the projects area that it is currently on the user-owned board 1 is the only project it is a member of. It's currently in the backlog column. So if I take my user-owned board and I come take this card and I drag it over to, say, the doing column, I've now dragged it over to the doing column. It's at the top position because that's where I dropped it. Nothing has changed on the pull request itself other than it now shows that it is in the doing column. And then, so I could say, when we're ready to start looking at this pull request, move it from the backlog column to the doing column. And then once we've reviewed the pull request and we're done with it, whether we accepted it, rejected it, whatever we did, we could then move it to the finished column. So this gives us an easy way of seeing what's waiting for us, what are we working on, and what have we finished. Now remember, moving this card through these different columns doesn't do anything to actually modify the pull request. We don't have any automation turned on in these columns, as you can see, because there's nothing at the bottom of the column, or if we go to manage automation for each column, the preset would be none. But even manually moving the cards through the columns doesn't modify anything back on the pull request itself, other than just changing what column it's in the projects area. The automation on the boards happens the other direction. When events happen on the pull request, that make the board do something with the column. So if we come back over to the pull request and we just say close it, we're not going to merge it, we're just going to close it. And that changes it to a closed state. And back on the board, we can see that the icon on the pull request has changed to red, and the pull request is currently in a closed state. You'll notice that I could reopen the pull request directly from the board if I wanted to. So let's do that. If we say reopen the pull request, you'll notice that the icon changed to green. And if we come back over to the pull request itself, it's now showing as being open again. But it still kept it in the finished column. We don't have any automation in place for pull requests on this board. So therefore, any movement of cards from one column to another is going to have to be completely manual. So let's look at a board that has a little more automation to it and see what happens when we work with a pull request on that type of board. I've now switched over to my other repository, the My Acme repository, and in that repository I created 4 project boards. The one we're going to look at is the Automated Kanban with Reviews board. So if I drill into that board, I can see where I added a couple of issues and a pull request earlier to the board. The board gives me the ability to show tracking so I can see how many I've done, how many cards are in progress, how much stuff is still to do. And just as I could with the other board, I can drag and drop or use keyboard shortcuts to move my pull request card into different columns. You can see I've got 5 different columns here. The difference between this board and the other board is this board actually has automation. So you can see at the bottom, each column has some automation applied to it. So for example, if I look at the in progress column, whenever I add a new pull request to this board, it shows up in this column. And whenever I reopen a closed pull request, it shows up in this column. So we can see this automation take place if I open up this pull request and I say close. You'll notice the pull request moved from the in progress column to the done column. That's because there's automation on the done column that says when a pull request is closed, move it to this column. You can also see that the icon changed to red to show that it's closed. I can reopen this pull request, and you'll notice that by reopening the pull request, it automatically moved it back to the in progress column. So let's go look at this pull request itself. So I'm going to select it and I'm going to say go to pull request. Now, here's my pull request. I have added a reviewer already called Mickey Gousset, which is another user that I have. And I've been doing some testing, you can see, but what I'm going to do is tell this reviewer that I want to re-request a review. So now I'm waiting on the reviewer to review this. If I look at my board, nothing has changed on my board. The pull request is still in the in progress column. So let's go to the actual pull request as Mickey Gousset, and we can see that it's waiting for me to add a review. So I'm going to say add my review. So if I come into the review and I leave some comments, if I just leave a comment, nothing's going to change on the board. The card will continue to stay in the in progress column. If I approve it, or no, let's request some changes first. So let's say I request some changes on the pull request. So I'm going to submit this review requesting some changes. If I come back over to the board, you can see that the pull request moved to review in progress. And it did this because of the automation that we have set up to where a pull request will move here when the reviewer request changes. So at this point, I would go, oh, I see I have pull requests that need some changes made to them. So maybe I'll go review that, update the changes, and then maybe I'll go back to that pull request and request another review. So at this point, I've requested another review. And if I come back over to my reviewer, and let's go back to the pull request, we can see I've been requested to do another review. So I can look at this and say, looks good. And I'll approve the changes. And I can submit my review. Once I submit my review, if I come back and look at the board now, I can see that the card has moved to reviewer approved. So at this point, the pull request has been approved, so now I should probably go merge it in. By merging it in, it will close the pull request and move it into done. And I've been able to follow my workflow, work on what needs to be worked on, and allow automation to help me move these cards through my board so I don't have to remember to move the cards through my board. I hope you have enjoyed this video on working with pull requests on your GitHub project boards. Make sure you come back to check out the next video in the series, Working with Notes, where I will show you what note cards are and how you can use them with GitHub project boards. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button below and subscribe to my channel for more DevOps goodness. Thanks for watching.